Imagine ancient Greece, circa 300 years before Christ. A guy named Archimedes of Syracuse, the famous mathematician and inventor, says, "Give me a lever long enough and a place to stand, and I will lift the earth." To me, as a linguist, this is a very symbolic quote. I bet it made headlines back in Archimedes' day. But to me, he uses the word lever there, which is what we're talking about here, using something to amplify the impact of something that we are trying to move to achieve our affiliate success. But before we get to my thoughts on how you can really strengthen your personal brand and build it, let's look at the two key elements of any branding, and personal branding in particular. These are authenticity and unique promise of value. As I think of strong personal brands, I can't help but think of people like Bill Gates or Warren Buffett, Barack Obama or Vladimir Putin, Oprah or Princess Diana. Now, there is one thing that unifies them all, and regardless of how different they are, they have one thing in common, and that is the fact that they differentiated themselves from everyone else. They really stand out, and that's what authenticity is. In my case, I've been using my, like I did in my introduction, my ethnical background, my education as things to make me be different, things that differentiate me from the rest. In your case, it will be something else, but you do want to be authentic, first of all. Secondly, you need to have that unique promise of value. That is something that would tell your customers why choose you and not your competitor. In more crowded niches, it will be hard to come up with a truly unique promise of value, but not impossible, especially if you think of things through the eyes of those that consume your product or service. Now, you can be as authentic as you can be and have this great value proposition, but in case you are these three R's, you will not be able to succeed. You want to be reachable. People got to know where to find you. You got to be responsive, which is very different from being just reachable. You want to respond to them in a timely fashion. I can't help but think of hundreds of brands on Twitter, both corporate and personal, that just tweet stuff out, treat it as a one-way channel, and never respond back. So you want to be responsive. And finally, you want to be real. Numerous people would use company's avatar or company's logo for their avatar or company's name for their Facebook account. Don't do that, especially if we're talking personal branding. You want to be your real self, not your nickname or your company's name. And in my case, it also reflects in how I use automated tools. Especially for retweeting other people's stuff or auto-updating statuses on Facebook or other places. I am very careful as to how I use them. I play with some of them, but don't depend on them. It's very important to stay real. Now let's look at something that many people believe to be the key to any personal branding and successful leadership too. It's called charisma. In fact, there's this whole theory of leadership called transformational leadership, where some people believe that unless you've got this thing called charisma, this magnet that draws people to you, you will not be able to become a truly transformational leader, or in our case, an effective personal brand. On the other side, there are people that also believe in transformational leadership, but say that, and I agree with these, they say that charisma is something that you cannot learn. It's a gift. You either have it or you don't. Now, if you don't, are you doomed? No. 3 I's is what I've found to be extremely helpful in my personal practice. and I hope you will find them of help as well. I, number one, you want inspirational motivation to be a part of your personal branding and your leadership. Appeal to people's emotions. Make them feel important for participating in your online community or your business. Be a motivation yourself. Be passionate, and I hope you're doing something you're really passionate about. That's I, number one, inspirational motivation. I, number two, is intellectual stimulation. You want to stimulate people to think. Bloggers that reblog other people's stuff and do not contribute anything of their own into it, or do not challenge their readers, followers, friends to think, normally do not achieve much. You do want to have that element of intellectual stimulation in there. Now, I'm not talking rocket science. People don't want overly complex stuff, but things that they can really identify with and really build up on. Finally, we have inspirational motivation, intellectual stimulation, and number three is individualized consideration. Like in that example of people being tweeted at but never tweeting back, not treating every follower as an individual and not replying to everyone individually. It will get hard the more popular you grow, but never forget those that have helped you get to where you are and generously reward them for that and help them grow as well. That is so important. So we've got these three I's. We've got three R's, three I's, and throughout all of this, build bridges. Through contexts people can identify with, through personal, by illustrating things or your points through your own biography or other people's biographies or life stories. But do build bridges. They will really help you communicate in the same language that your audience communicates in. And finally, when we are talking putting a personal brand on the front line, we are talking really brave people, in my opinion. You got to be courageous to do that because things will happen. Mistakes will be made. However, an error does not become a mistake unless it is being refused to be corrected. You gotta learn from mistakes, correct them quickly. I have been practicing this all along, but haven't read it in this way, as Chris Brogan put it in his Trust Agents. Just a few months ago, I was reading the book. He says if there's a mistake, you gotta remember 3 A's: admit it, apologize, and act. It's that simple, and it works. It builds integrity, trust. It builds your personal brand. Be prepared for these mistakes, be prepared to correct them, but always discern the real critics from those who will never be happy. There will be real critics who will help you grow through constructive criticism. There will be some of your competitors and some of your clients that will just never be happy. And let me tell you a story here. As I was growing up in the former Soviet Union, in the poorest republic of all, Moldova, I started jogging at the age of 4, not because I wanted so. My dad was raising me up in a very Spartan atmosphere, so I started jogging at 4 years of age. We would wake up at 5 o'clock, rain, snow, whatever, we'd jog. 4 years old, little boy. Lots of homeless dogs in my home country. Every once in a while, they'd start chasing us. And for me, some of those dogs would pretty much reach my height. Scary stuff. I would try throwing rocks at them and trying to get rid of them in some way. But my father would always tell me something, the meaning of which I haven't understood until just a few years ago. He would say, don't pay attention to them. Watch them, but don't react back. Look forward and run. And let me leave you with this thought. The dogs will always be barking, but you gotta look forward and press on towards the goal, and only then you will succeed. Not when you pay attention to the things that you shouldn't.